What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. And if you've ever wanted to go on a bug hunt or perhaps do a little space trucking, maybe even colonize a new world, I think I've got just the game for you. That game is Alien by Free League Publishing. Now, this game's been out for a few years now, but there's enough of it out that I think it's worth doing a deep dive on this whole product line. So that's what we're going to do today. This is how to get into the Alien RPG.
It's game over, man. It's game over. What are we going to do?
Maybe we could build a fire, sing a couple of songs, huh? Why don't we try that?
First things first, what is the Alien RPG? Well, this is the role-playing game that is made by Free League Publishing, one of my favorite game companies today, based on their Year Zero engine that dives into the extended universe of the Alien franchise, that being the 1979 movie and beyond. Now, this covers all of the movies and several unfilmed scripts that were made as variations of Alien 3 were a couple of areas that they took from. I think they've got some stuff from the comic books. There are some new novels that are coming out that are actually going to tie into this RPG. This has two different modes of play, one being cinematic, which is going to be mainly for one-shots, and it is going to capture the feel of Alien, the 1979 original movie. And then there's also going to be campaign play, which is going to be a little bit less deadly, because if you have to re-roll your characters every session, it's not going to be as enjoyable. But you could perhaps do a little bit more of the subsequent movies where they're going a little bit more head-on with the aliens and doing some other conflict resolution as well. So you could play this game out as a space truckers game, you could be Colonial Marines, or you could just be colonists. Some of the things that I really enjoy about this, the Year Zero engine is absolutely fantastic when it comes to a unified mechanic. Basically, you're going to have a stat plus a skill. You add those numbers together, you roll that many d6, and you're looking for as many sixes as you can get. 1 6 is going to be a success generally, and more sixes that you get, you're going to actually end up with better results. Now, on top of that, in Alien, they're going to allow you to push rolls and add stress to your character. Stress are going to be extra special dice that I'll show you in a little bit that will give you more opportunities to be successful, but also if you roll a facehugger, which is also a 1 if you don't choose to use their special dice, then if you roll that facehugger, then you have to make a panic check. And the chances of you losing your stuff and then needing to take a moment are pretty good. So as you gain stress, you become more likely to succeed, but also more likely to break down. The vehicle rules in Alien are extremely simple as well, because they're just based off of the basic Year Zero engine, stat plus skill, roll them all, try to get a 6. There's tons of equipment in here. There's tons of tech drawings that go along with the equipment to give you kind of an idea of how it should function. There are some really great creation tools within the different books to create sectors and job generators, and there's just multiple types of adventure hooks that you can create just using the basic tools within the game set. Now, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because a lot of the stuff I've been talking about is actually from the core rulebook. But this that I'm showing you here is the starter set. So let's take a look into that. To start off with, the starter set has some amazing cards. It's got 10 initiative cards, which you can use for all of your Alien games. It's got a bunch of equipment, weapon cards that you can use for your regular Alien games. Then it has some special cards that actually represent the pre-generated characters for the scenario that is included in the starter set. There's also some cards that reflect the personal agendas for the characters that are pre-made in the starter set mission so that it will drive the narrative towards the way the story was written. When you dig a little bit deeper into the box, you're also going to find this amazing system map that has all of the locations that you're going to find in the Alien source material. And it has them mapped out as far as who are the controlling factions in that area, and it gives you a really good idea of the scope of what you're looking at whenever you're dealing with the Alien universe. On the flip side of that map, you have these really cool kind of schematic drawings / maps of the USCSS Cronus. This is going to be the vessel that's going to be used in the adventure that's included in the starter set. And I would like to point out, this is not regular map material. This is harder. It's like almost a plasticky feel to it. I don't know how to explain it really, but it's a really nice feel, and it's extremely durable. Digging a little further into the box, you're going to find a couple of bags of dice. You get 10 black dice and 10 yellow dice. The black dice are going to be your base dice. Those are what you use for your skill plus stat plus any adds from your equipment. And then the yellow dice are going to be your stress dice. I've got a couple of them laid out for each color here to notate that on the black dice, you actually just get a regular 1, and then you get this targeting here as your success symbol for the 6. But for the yellow dice, which are the stress dice, you get a face hugger for the 1, and you still get the success / crosshair symbol for 6. That's because when you roll stress dice, there's a chance you get that face hugger, and then you're going to panic. Now, even though I've already showed you that they included the cards for these pre-generated characters from the mission, they also have these really nice slick sheets that have a character sheet on back, as well as the talents and stats on the front, and then a little blurb about each character. This is a really nice inclusion if you're going to be playing this as a one-shot with a new group. Next, inside the box, you're going to find Chariot of the Gods, which is a 48-page, full-on cinematic adventure. This is really nicely made. Like I said before, it's got all the pre-generated characters with the cards, the personal agenda cards, and the big sheets. It also has a very well-written story here. You're definitely not going to be superheroes as you go through this. This is a quite deadly set of scenarios. And it is going to play right into future adventures that are released by Free League Publishing that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And it has some really cool artwork. It's got a great aesthetic to the entire layout. And I think it is very well done as far as an introductory adventure scenario goes. And because it's a cinematic, it's going to play a little bit deadlier and a little bit more like the original film. Now, while you don't get the full set of rules that you would get in the 392-page core rulebook, you do get a very nice collection of them, pared down only slightly in this 104-page tome, which is quite beefy for a starter set rulebook. It's going to be nice to be able to hand this around the table whenever your players have questions, whether you are playing with the full core rules or you're just doing a one-shot adventure. This covers all of the different concepts. It just doesn't cover character creation. In cinematic mode, which is what you're going to be playing whenever you're playing through these pre-made scenarios, you would be looking at this as probably a one-shot or maybe a couple of sessions, but you're not really looking at it as far as character development goes. You're just looking at it to have that cinematic experience. Now, one thing, while we're talking about the rules, Free League has their in-house system, the Year Zero engine system, which this is based off of. I've talked about that a little at the beginning of the video, but each time they implement it, they put a few quirks in to make it specific to the game that they're trying to create. Now, with Alien, a lot of the game is about tension and about jump scares. So they've implemented that with their stress dice, which I've talked about, and also with stealth mode. Because often the aliens are not known to the players as far as where they are or what they look like even. The system has a setup whereby the players may be using motion trackers, and you just get to see that there is motion in an area, but you don't know what it is. So that creates a very tense and interesting setup where you can really recreate that jump scare type of a feel. Maybe that ping that they see on their scanner is actually just a cat, or maybe it is a xenomorph. You never know. And the last thing in the box is going to be this nice sheet of heavy-duty tokens that are two-sided. They're two-sided because on one side of the enemies, you're going to get the pings, so the players won't be able to tell whether it's a xenomorph or who knows what else. So with these, you can utilize the maps that are included, and you can really give a good idea of a layout of how the adventure is playing out. So that's the starter set. While I don't always think that starter sets are a must-buy item, especially if you already know that you're going to be playing a campaign and you're not going to be primarily focused on a cinematic or one-shot adventure type of situation. In this case, however, and with most Free League games, this is absolutely a must-buy. The starter set has a ton of great material that you can use for cinematic play or for your campaign games. The dice alone are worth half the price of admission. If you've ever tried to find Free League custom dice for any of their games, you know that they tend to sell out very quickly because they're nice dice, and they do help the game feel a little bit more immersive. So getting 10 of each in this box set is huge. Then when you throw in the cards, the nice slimmer version of the rules, the adventure, the tokens that you can use in your other games, the map of the universe, the whole bit, this makes it a very nice package and very good value for the price. So I would start, no matter how you intend to use the Alien RPG, this is going to be your first purchase. Now, after you have the starter set in hand, I'm going to suggest you get the core rulebook, even if you only plan on playing cinematic adventures with no character creation, and I'll tell you why. This book has sat on my shelf for about 2 years now, and for the first year and a half, I had no intentions of playing it. It is just a really beautiful book, and it has a ton of information about the Alien universe. It's just an interesting read. Now, when you do actually end up using it at the table, it's well laid out, and because it's the Year Zero engine, it's very easy to pick up on. Now, what this is going to add that is not in the starter set are going to be the character creation and advancement rules, as well as a ton of information about the universe and the fiction that goes along with Alien. A lot of it is actually derived from unused scripts, and at the end, there's actually an adventure called Hope's Last Day about a colony called Hadley's Hope, which actually ties very nicely into the original movie. I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but it's cool. So with this, it's your typical Free League book. It's going to be a nice hardbound. It's got the ribbon. Now there is a newer print that actually doesn't have the ribbon, but everything else is about the same. As far as when you get inside, you're going to see great layouts. You're going to see some nice art. It is a little bit dark, which some people have complained about as far as the artwork goes, but I do overall really enjoy the way that it evokes the setting. Whenever you get to the section about the universe, it really goes into some neat details about things as story-oriented as how religion works, how law enforcement works, and it allows you to create a living world for your players. When you get towards the end, you're going to see some information about some of the different factions and some of the different races, and then you get into some cool information about the aliens. Now, the very end is going to be about 30 pages or so of adventure, which I'm not going to show you here, but there are some nice end papers that have a version of the map that I showed you from the starter set. Same thing on the front. So you're not going to be going wrong by picking up the core rulebook. Okay, after you have the starter set and the core rulebook in your hand, you're going to want to pick up the Game Mother screen. Now, because this is a Free League game, they love their tables and charts. This is no different. So the screen, sorry about the glare, has charts for the critical injuries, has charts for the panic rolls, which you're going to be using frequently, the modifiers for your ranged attacks, the range categories, what you get for cover, and then also a very handy list of what a slow action, what a fast action is. In this game, you get one slow action, one fast action, and then some nice tables here, what you would add for difficulty modifiers, how stealth works, and sneak attacks and ambushes. So for the cost, this is going to be a great add to your experience. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start getting into some of the optional buys. Everything up to this point, I consider a necessity. Now, that's not to say these aren't great books or great supplements, but they're just something that you may or may not need them for your table. The Colonial Marines Operations Manual is a fantastic book. It is about as long as the core rule book, and it has additional rules for creating specific MOS of Marines. It has extra equipment and vehicles. It has some specific Marine-based missions for like an open world, kind of a hex crawl type of experience, which Free League is excellent at. If you haven't checked out their Forbidden Lands game, you should, because they are the kings of hex crawling. And this kind of gives you that option for playing in the Alien universe in that type of a game. Then there are also a number of preset missions at the end of the book that are going to play right off of the story that started in Chariots of the Gods in the starter rulebook and kind of continue off of that story. Now, inside the book, there's also a ton of information about the history of the Corps and about some of the different black operations that they are involved in. So if you want to know more about what the Colonial Marines were up to in the Alien universe, this is going to be a great read just for that, if nothing else. So if you're going to be playing campaign-based games and you're going to have any Marines or an all-Marine-based game, you will not go wrong by picking this book up. Okay, we're going to get into another one of the optional buys. This is the Destroyer of Worlds Adventure Module. Now this is a box set, which I love. Free League's box sets are top-notch. They are probably the best creator of box set products in the RPG market today. This is going to have an 88-page adventure, which is a continuation of the Dracana Strain saga, which was started in the Chariots of the God adventure in the starter set. On top of that, this is going to have a double-sided map that goes along with the adventure. It's going to have some pre-generated character sheets similar to what was in the starter set. It's got some cards for personal agenda items specific to this game, as well as some cards for story purposes in this game. A really nice thing about these particular adventures that I'm going to talk about from the Alien RPG is you don't even have to have the core rules to play them out. All you need is the starter set to be able to play these box sets as well. So most starter set products are not going to be able to be carried on past the adventures there. You're going to have to pick up the core rules. In the case of Aliens, you do not have to. You could just pick up the starter set and the Destroyer of Worlds and be able to play this adventure as well. Now, where the starter set adventure, you basically played space truckers. In this adventure, you're going to be playing Marines, which brings along with it the ability to fight back better against the aliens in a much more action-oriented type of situation. So if you are interested in that type of gameplay, Destroyer of Worlds is going to be a great pickup. This is also very inexpensive for all the content you get within it. And here's the final product that's currently available for the Alien RPG. This is the Heart of Darkness. It's another boxed adventure, and this is going to be very similar to the Destroyer of Worlds box set. It's going to have the handouts for the player characters. It's going to have the cards that have the agenda items and the story cards and some equipment cards. It's got some double-sided maps that are beautiful. It's got a great adventure book. It's about 78 pages. And it is going to be playable with either the core rules or the starter set, which is, again, a really nice decision by Free League. I think they know, they have the confidence in their game to know that if you play all these games with just the starter set, you're going to want to dive a little bit deeper, and you're going to want to get the core rule book anyways. But the fact that they have that confidence that you could just buy the starter box set, the Destroyer of Worlds, and the Heart of Darkness box set, and that would be all you needed to play, and you could play through 3 entire campaign cinematic scenarios and be perfectly content. Now, this particular scenario is going to be focused on scientists and colonists. So kind of the third branch of the 3 different types of games that this system does really well. The one in the starter set was more space truckers. The Destroyer of Worlds was Colonial Marines. And then this one is going to be scientists and colonists. The story does go along with the Draconis Strain Saga from those 3 boxes. So this is a continuation of that story with different characters. That being said, I think that of the 3, this is the one that interests me the least, just because the scientific side of it is not as exciting to me as being space truckers or Colonial Marines. But to each their own. I still obviously bought the box, so I thought it was worth that at the very least. Now, that is everything that is out for the Alien RPG right now, other than you could get some extra dice. I will say the PDFs are nice, and I do have some of those as well. But overall, the Alien RPG is a evocative way to play a game based around the alien mythology. I think that the system does a good job of capturing the crucial parts of that story, and I think that it is easy enough to pick up that you can actually introduce non-gamer friends to the world of RPGs with this product with just a little bit of a nudge if they enjoy the alien backstory. Now, the gameplay and the product itself is well made enough that even if you have players that have never watched Alien or aren't interested in that particular story as much, they could still get something out of this. They could still enjoy this game if they have any interest at all in sci-fi. So, in my opinion, this is a great system to dive into, and I'm fairly confident that Free League will keep producing content for this. I believe that they've announced that there is going to be a colonial, or a colonist book, rather, that will be a similar type of product to the Colonial Marines book. And I think that's going to be a great addition to the game as well. So, this is something that you can bring to your table, and I think you're not going to regret it. So if you enjoyed the video, you like the content, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And at the end, you're going to see a suggestion for another of my videos that you might enjoy, and also an opportunity to click and subscribe. Until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.